Welcome to English Podcast, your place to enjoy captivating stories and real conversations while improving your English. Listen anytime, anywhere, and boost your confidence step by step.
Let's imagine a young couple, Sarah and David, who decide to go camping. They love the outdoors. They've packed their tent, sleeping bags, and all the essentials, eager for a weekend escape in the wilderness. They chose a secluded spot deep in the woods, far from any marked trails. They really wanted to get away from it all. Secluded means quiet and private, by the way.
Right, so they're looking for peace and quiet, a real escape. They drive for hours, finally reaching a small clearing beside a gurgling stream. The trees are tall and dense, their leaves filtering the sunlight. It's beautiful, almost magical, and a little bit eerie, like something out of a fairy tale. Eerie means mysterious and slightly spooky.
They set up their tent, a bright orange dome against the green backdrop of the forest. David gathers firewood while Sarah unpacks their supplies. They're chatting and laughing, enjoying the fresh air and the sense of adventure. Everything seems perfect, just as they planned.
They build a small campfire, the flames crackling merrily, casting dancing shadows on the surrounding trees. They cook a simple meal of hot dogs and beans, classic camping food. As the sun begins to set, the forest grows darker, and the sounds of the woods become more noticeable. Crickets chirp, an owl hoots in the distance. It's really peaceful.
They settle into their sleeping bags inside the tent, feeling cozy and content. They talk for a while, whispering about their week, their dreams, and their plans for the future. The sounds of the forest lull them to sleep. Lull means to soothe or cause to sleep.
But as the night deepens, the temperature drops dramatically. The pleasant summer evening transforms into a surprisingly cold night. They hadn't anticipated such a drastic change in weather. Drastic means severe and sudden.
As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor, we realized we had a problem. A big problem. We had completely underestimated how quickly the temperature could drop in the mountains. Chilly, I said, trying to sound optimistic, but my teeth were already starting to chatter.
And we were ill-prepared. We'd packed light, thinking a thin fleece would suffice. Suffice means be enough. Clearly, a thin fleece was not going to suffice in these near-freezing temperatures. I rummaged through our backpack, hoping for a miracle. A hidden extra layer, but no luck.
Our meticulously planned campsite, chosen for its stunning view, was now exposed to the full force of the icy wind. The trees, which had provided welcome shade during the day, now seemed to amplify the wind, whistling an eerie tune. Eerie means strange and a bit frightening.
I shivered, pulling my thin fleece tighter around me. We had gathered some firewood earlier, confident in our fire-starting skills. Confident means we felt sure of our abilities. But now, with numb fingers, striking a match seemed an impossible task.
The matches were damp. Of course they were. We had forgotten to put them in a waterproof bag. My stomach sank. We needed a fire, not just for warmth, but to cook our dinner, a freeze-dried meal that required hot water.
Remember, freeze-dried means all the water has been removed, making it light and easy to carry. But you definitely need to add hot water back in to make it edible. Eating it dry and crunchy was not an option we wanted to explore. We were already hungry and getting colder by the minute.
I looked over at the small tent we had managed to pitch earlier. Pitch means to set up. It offered minimal protection from the elements. The thin fabric flapped in the wind, seeming to mock our predicament.
A predicament is a difficult, unpleasant, or embarrassing situation. And ours was getting increasingly difficult. The excitement of our camping adventure was rapidly fading, replaced by a gnawing sense of unease. Gnawing describes a persistent, uncomfortable feeling. We had to do something, and fast.
So, to quickly recap what's happened so far in our story, Mark and Sarah, our adventurous couple, decided to go camping deep in the woods. They wanted a real, get away from it all experience. They packed their gear, drove for hours, and finally found a secluded spot to set up camp. Secluded means quiet and private, far from other people.
Right, and everything seemed perfect at first. The weather was beautiful, the birds were singing, it was idyllic. Idyllic means peaceful and perfect, like a dream. They set up their tent, built a campfire, the whole camping experience.
Exactly. But as night fell, things started to take a turn. They heard strange noises in the woods. Rustling leaves, snapping branches. It started to get a little creepy. Creepy means strange and a little scary, making you feel uneasy.
And then, the real trouble began. Their campfire, which had been burning so brightly, suddenly started to die down. Remember, they were miles from anywhere, deep in the woods, with no cell service. It was getting dark and cold. They were starting to feel a little bit vulnerable. Vulnerable means exposed to danger, unprotected.
Then, they realized they were almost out of firewood. This is a real problem, because the fire is their only source of light and warmth. They decide to search for more wood, but it's pitch black outside the tent. Pitch black means completely dark, like the inside of a cave.
They know it's risky, but they have no choice. They grab their flashlight and cautiously step out into the darkness. Cautiously means carefully, trying not to make any noise and being aware of their surroundings. They're both feeling very nervous, wondering what made those strange noises they heard earlier.
Armed with only a flashlight and their courage, they ventured deeper into the woods. Ventured means they went somewhere despite the risk, took a chance. They knew they needed to find firewood quickly before their flashlight batteries died, leaving them in complete darkness.
And the rustling noises continued, getting closer, it seemed. They started to feel like they were being watched. That feeling of being watched, when you can't see anyone, that's really unsettling. Unsettling means disturbing, making you feel anxious and worried.
The morning mist was so thick, we could barely see a few feet in front of us. It was like walking through a cloud. Thick here means dense, almost solid. We were completely surrounded by it.
And the ground was damp, almost soggy from the mist condensing on the leaves and dripping down. Soggy means very wet and soft, like a wet sponge. It made our boots muddy.
We were starting to feel a bit apprehensive. Apprehensive means anxious or worried about something that might happen.
Especially since the strange noises from the night before were still fresh in our minds. We packed up our damp tent and started walking, hoping to reach the ranger station soon.
The trail became steeper and more treacherous. Treacherous means dangerous and unstable. We had to be very careful not to slip.
And then, just as I thought things couldn't get any worse, I felt a sharp sting on my ankle. I cried out, "Ouch! I think I've been bitten by something."
I knelt down to examine her ankle. There were 2 small puncture wounds. Puncture wounds, these are small, deep holes made by something sharp, like a fang or a thorn.
The pain was starting to throb. Throb means to beat with a strong, regular rhythm, usually because of pain. It felt like my heart was beating in my ankle.
We needed to find help, and fast. We were miles from anywhere, in the middle of the wilderness. Wilderness describes a wild, natural area, untouched by humans.
And the mist was still thick, making it hard to see the trail. We decided to try and follow the stream downhill, hoping it would lead us to civilization. To follow the stream downhill means we walked along the side of the small river flowing downwards.
It was a risky decision, but we didn't have many options. We were lost, injured, and starting to lose hope. We were in a precarious situation. Precarious describes a situation that is uncertain or dangerous.
Remember, the word precarious implies instability and potential danger. It is often used to describe situations that are likely to get worse.
Okay, let's quickly recap the story so far. Remember, recap means to summarize. We started with our excited campers, Sarah and David, arriving at their campsite, eager to enjoy nature. They set up their tent, a little clumsily at first, but they managed.
Yes, and then came the unexpected rain. They had to scramble, which means to move quickly, to protect their supplies. Luckily, they found a small cave nearby for shelter. They felt a little apprehensive, meaning slightly worried or nervous, about the change in weather.
Right. Huddled in the cave, they heard a rustling sound. Thinking it was an animal, they were startled, meaning surprised and a little frightened. But it turned out to be a park ranger, who warned them about the rising river levels due to the heavy rainfall.
The ranger advised them to move to higher ground. Despite their initial reluctance, they realized it was the sensible thing to do. Sensible means practical and wise. They packed up their damp belongings and carefully followed the ranger's directions.
They found a safer spot and managed to build a small fire to dry off and warm up. Exhausted but relieved, they finally settled down for the night, grateful for the ranger's timely intervention. Timely means happening at the right moment.
And that brings us to the end of their little adventure. They learned a valuable lesson about being prepared for unexpected challenges when camping. They also discovered the importance of heeding, or paying attention to, advice from experienced people.
Exactly. So, despite the unexpected rain and the slight scare, Sarah and David ultimately had a safe, albeit damp, camping trip. Albeit means although. They even said they might come back again someday, better prepared next time.
They definitely gained some valuable experience. Imagine how much better they'll pack and plan for their next outdoor adventure. They won't be quite so startled by a little rain next time, I imagine. They faced adversity, meaning difficulty, and overcame it.
Absolutely. Remember everyone, being prepared is key to enjoying the outdoors safely. Until next time, happy camping. Thanks for listening to English Boost. Remember, practice a little every day and you'll see big results. See you in the next episode.